Good morning, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Madeline Batson, Director of Policy and Research at the Louisiana Policy Institute for Children. The Policy Institute is an independent source of data, research, and pertinent information for policymakers. Our goal is to shed light on the state of early childhood education in Louisiana. Over the last year, a project team, including the Policy Institute, ACE Consulting, the Louisiana Department of Education, the National Association for Family Child Care, and the Power Coalition for Equity and Justice, conducted a study on family child care in Louisiana. Family child care providers are a critical, yet often invisible, component of the early childhood education system. Despite educating and caring for more than 3 million children under age 5 every day in the United States. I'm grateful you all can be here today to hear from our panelists as they share the major takeaways and insights from the role of family child care in early childhood education in Louisiana. Findings from an initial study on family child care providers and parents report. Before we get started with today's press conference, we want to thank the W.K. Kellogg Foundation for making this study possible. And now I would like to introduce Deirdre Johnson Burrell, Senior Program Officer at the W.K. Kellogg Foundation, who will serve as today's moderator.
Thank you, Maddie. It was important for the Kellogg Foundation to be a part of commissioning this study to learn more about family child care in Louisiana as an important complement in our ECE ecosystem. And I'm excited to serve as today's moderator as we share key findings from this important study. The study offers insight on the opportunity family child care is a choice and a solution for families. It illuminates the needs and challenges that family child care providers in Louisiana face and offers recommendations on a path forward on how we can leverage this important tool in our early childhood toolkit. So thank you again for joining us. Throughout today's program, please feel free, and I'm encouraging you to utilize your Zoom, drop in a few questions in that Q&A so that we can get to those. And with that, it's my pleasure to turn it over to Karen Powell, our Deputy Assistant Superintendent of Early Childhood Care and Education at the Louisiana Department of Education, who will begin today's program by setting the landscape of Louisiana's ECE system.
Thank you so much, Deirdre and Maddie. So this morning, before we dive into family child care in more specific detail, it's really helpful to first look broadly at the early childhood education system here in Louisiana. So in Louisiana, there are multiple types of child care providers who operate within our licensing system. So for example, there are Type 1, Type 2, and Type 3 child care centers, and they are all licensed by the state to operate, which means they must comply with health and safety standards and monitoring. Those types are primarily differentiated by whether or not those centers receive a type of public funding and whether or not they participate in the state accountability system. In Louisiana, family child care providers are allowed to educate and care for up to 6 children at a time without having a license. Once a family child care provider wants to care for more than 6 children, they are required to be licensed as an early learning center provider. The only child care providers in the state that participate in publicly funded programs are Type 3 providers, which are center-based providers, and family child care providers who are what we call CCAP certified. And I think looking at the participant list and all the friends and partners, everyone knows what that means, but CCAP is the state subsidy program called the Child Care Assistance Program. So whether funded with state or federal funds, Louisiana has several publicly funded early education programs, such as CCAP, LA4, Head Start, and others. And across all of our publicly funded programs, we currently serve approximately 58,000 economically disadvantaged children from birth through 4 years old. But there are at least 100,000 more children in Louisiana who are economically disadvantaged and still in need of affordable childcare. Our second largest publicly funded early education program, the Child Care Assistance Program, currently has a wait list, for example, of approximately 4,000 birth to 3-year-old children. The ultimate goal of a successful early childhood education system is to provide parents the ability to choose the childcare arrangement that best suits their family's needs, as well as to prepare children for success in kindergarten and beyond. But not all families can or want to access childcare through center or through school-based programs that we've mentioned. And that's where our family childcare providers step in as one of our state's most important resources. So next, to share an overview of family childcare specifically in Louisiana, I'm going to hand it over to Erica Phillips, Executive Director of the National Association for Family Childcare. Erica.
Thank you, Karen. I am from the National Association for Family Childcare, which just briefly is the largest professional network for the thousands of dedicated individuals who are making the intentional decision to offer high-quality early care and education from their home. And we are so happy to be here talking about family childcare in Louisiana. Family childcare is at the center of the shared prosperity for children, early educators, and families. It often fills in the gap for families who struggle to find care that is accessible, affordable, within a reasonable distance, or available during the non-traditional hours that many families work. It is also important to note that regardless of center-based availability, parents also often choose family childcare as their first choice due to the many benefits this provider type offers. They offer small group sizes, close child caregiver family relationships, and mixed age settings, which allow siblings to be cared for in the same environment. At NAFCC, we actually refer to those caring for children in their home as educators, since they are providing crucial educational services to young children. Throughout the country, family child care educators have and often pursue several options to ensure they are offering the best environment for children and be formally recognized. They may earn a nationally recognized credential, including NAFCC's national credential or the Child Development Association associate from the Council for Professional Recognition. Within Louisiana, they also have the option to connect with the state's broader early childhood education system by going through different voluntary pathways within the Louisiana Department of Education to gain access to publicly funded programs, tax credit incentives, and professional development opportunities. CCAP certified family child care programs follow state guidelines, which include inspections from the state fire marshal, child care criminal background checks, training, and supervision requirements. When providers comply with these requirements, they are eligible to receive CCAP payments for approved CCAP families. Family child care educators are also able to go one step farther and receive academic approval. Educators who have academic approval follow all of the expectations of being certified, but in addition to that, they can qualify for and receive the same support as Type 3 centers, including coaching, tax credits, technical assistance, and financial support for supplies, such as purchasing a Tier 1 curriculum. The Louisiana Department of Education verifies these programs to be meeting the required performance and academic standards to participate in the quality rating system, and they receive an annual performance profile. Family child care educators with academic approval have proven their ability to provide high-quality education by keeping pace with other child care types within the state's accountability system. This is a testament to the dedication of family child care educators to establish high-quality learning environments in their home-based programs. There are approximately 220 CCAP certified family child care programs and 150 family child care programs with academic approval. However, we know the reach of family child care is far beyond that. One indication how many might be out there is the number of providers participating in the Child and Adult Care Food Program, which is a federally funded nutrition program that provides high-quality, affordable meals to children attending eligible programs. There are 4,700 family child care programs participating in the CACFP food program. Having significantly less family child care providers participating in the Department of Education's pathways, it is clear that there are truly thousands of family child care programs who are offering a critical service to our families and our workforce, and we do not know much about them. This is why the family child care study is so important. To better understand the experience of family child care educators in Louisiana, our study group conducted focus groups, one-on-one interviews, and follow-up ground truthing sessions with parents and providers across the state between February and July of this year. We heard from nearly 80 family child care educators and a dozen parents about their needs, challenges, successes, and aspirations. I am now going to hand it over to Sierra Amar, CEO of Intelligent Kids Minds, owner of a registered family child care program in New Orleans, NAFCC's Louisiana State Representative, and a fellow with the Leaders Shaping Leaders program, to discuss the key findings from the family child care focus groups and interviews.
Thank you, Erica. The first finding from the study that is family child care providers offer learning environments that are tailored to children's developmental needs. In the focus groups, interviews, and ground truthing sessions, family child care providers consistently emphasize their ability to create a custom and developmental appropriate learning environment that meets the unique needs of each child in their program, helping them to transition successfully to kindergarten. Because of the structure of family child care program being one of that is relatively small, it allows providers to deeply understand leading trajectory of each of their enrolled children. They are able to adapt to specific needs and learning pace in a children with development delays and other disabilities. In my own experience as a family child care provider, I assist as well children with developmental disabilities with helping them catch up to speed with their learning academic and non-academic skill set. The second key finding is that family child care providers take pride in offering a relationship-driven experience. In addition to tailoring instruction, family child care providers are rooted in their community and are able to give individualized attention to the needs of not only their enrolled children, but their families as well. Oftentimes, family child care providers are suited in the same neighborhood as the families they serve, which allows them to deeply understand the unique culture and characters that impact their children's development. In addition to a tailoring instruction, family child care providers are rooted in their community and able to give individualized attention to the needs of not only their enrolled children, but their families as well. Oftentimes, family child care providers are suited in the same neighborhood as the families they serve. Additionally, because they are a home-based provider, they are able to often benefit that are not typically provided by larger settings, such as personal transportation, care for unique health needs, and provide care during non-traditional hours like evenings and weekends. I currently operate my family child care program part-time during the week and on the weekends, which is what has allowed me to be with you all this morning. Most providers operate during this time of the day and are unable to step away. I am, however, happy to share a video that family child care providers kindly recorded in advance for us today.
My name is Kimber Wallace. I'm an FCC provider from East Baton Rouge Parish. I do what I do because I love my babies. And I say my babies because they are my babies. They are with me from 7 a.m. sometimes until 4:30 or 5 o'clock. So those are my babies. The joy I get is when they come in the morning and they will tell me about their night, just anything that they feel like Miss Kim needs to know. they're so excited to share that with me, and I'm excited to hear what they said, and we talk about it. So those are my greatest joy. My challenges, I would say, is funding and behavior issues. I'm seeing a lot of behavior issues just because some of the kids are not stable in a stable environment. So sometimes that kind of carries over into childcare. The support, I think we need more support with funding. And I feel like the better funded we are, the better our program would be, our income would be more stable, and we would be able to assist our families a little bit more. Because some of my parents that I have dealt with, they have experienced homelessness, no transportation, and sometimes no food. So I just feel like if the better I am financially, the more I could give back to them. And then that way they in return could give back to their babies, and everybody can benefit from the funding of it.
As you heard, Kimball affirms core reason behind our work, our love for children. She also touched on the need for greater support. This is a perfect segue into our last provider finding. Family child care providers desire stronger system-wide support. Family child care providers wear many hats as they manage every aspect of their child care business. They are the executive directors, accountants, cooks, educators, and janitors all at the same time, but feel that the public thinks of them as just babysitters. As described in our previous findings, they are much more than that and want to provide the highest quality care and education that they can for the children and families. They believe that further engagement, support, and access to the broader early childhood system will help them do that, but also feel that the support they receive needs to account for how they have fundamental limitations as individual home-based providers. As a family childcare provider, I really benefited from the resources I have received through our CC and Aura resource and referral local agencies here in Louisiana, also with federal agencies, and also support and help from our national association, which is the NAFCC, National Association for Family Child Care. Next slide.
All right. Thank you for sharing your experience, Sierra. Family childcare providers are a critical linchpin of our economy, especially when we think about rural communities and those who work in industries where there are non-traditional hours of 8 to 5. So to detail the key findings for parents who utilize family childcare, I'm going to turn it over to Daphne Chapman, FCC parent and state manager with Save the Children Action Network. Daphne?
Thank you, Deirdre. The first key finding from parents is that family child care providers offer personalized support that parents seek. Not only do parents say that family child providers are easier to access and accommodate their work schedules, but they also feel that it provides a stronger learning environment for their children. Parents, like myself, have expressed feeling that family care providers commit to cultural and linguistic responsiveness, flexible scheduling, and accommodating special circumstances. In doing so, family child care providers serve not only as educators, but also as trusted partners and vital sources of stability for the families they serve. The second finding is that parents want to be engaged in their child's development. Parents reported being very satisfied with their family child care providers, especially in terms of their impact of their child's development. And they want to continue learning at home. As a mother of four, family child care has been one of the most vital supports in my parenting journey. My two in home child care providers, yes, I said two because they are accessible at different times of the day. My two in home child care providers became an extension of my family. They created a loving, structured, and safe environment where my children could grow, explore, and express themselves freely. I chose family care because number one, it was affordable and it was accessible. And number two, I wanted my children to be nurtured in a setting that felt like home, one where they were known by their name, understood as individuals, and surrounded by consistency and care. My providers didn't just watch my children, they taught them. They teach them from early social emotional learning and literacy skills to sharing, problem solving, which is needed a lot with four children in a household, and respecting one another. They laid the foundation for everything my children are today, thriving young human beings in their own personal settings. For working families like mine, family child care providers are a lifeline. They make it possible for parents to pursue their careers, knowing their children are not only safe, but they are thriving. The last finding is that the cost of childcare remains top of the mind of parents. I know for me it does. According to a recent survey of childcare providers in Louisiana, the average annual tuition across family childcare providers is $8,900 per child. Imagine that for four children. The same survey found that the average tuition across all child care provider types is $14,000 a year. Despite the many benefits of family child care being an option that is typically more affordable than center based care, barriers do exist. Programs do assist. Barriers to assistant programs like CCAP leave many working families without the support that they need. Parents shared that they experience financial disruptions when trying to afford or maintain childcare, including turning down job opportunities, which I have had to do on multiple occasions, reducing work hours, that too, or going without the necessities to afford consistent childcare for their children. These experiences underscore how deeply the cost of care impacts family stability, employment choices, and overall family well being. In my personal conversations with my circle of parent friends, when families pick a family care provider, it's often because that provider is trusted, accessible, and feels like an extension to their own family. And because statewide systems aren't always set up to meet those families' needs where they are, those home based providers offer a vital alternative. Thank you.
Thank you, Daphne. Thank you for sharing your story about access to high quality and affordable childcare and its long and short-term implications. We know that it has significant implications for workforce accessibility and parents. It's a cornerstone to parents' participation in the workforce. So when we don't provide quality access to childcare, unfortunately, everyone loses. To build on that and to begin to close us out today, I'd like to welcome back Madeline Karst Batson, our Director of Policy and Research at the Louisiana Policy Institute for Children. She will share what Louisiana can do next to better support family child care providers and build a continued stronger early childhood system. Maddie?
Thank you, Deirdre. Family child care providers are deeply committed to delivering high quality, personalized care where families strongly appreciate the trust, flexibility, and developmental support that family child care providers offer. And hopefully that's been pretty resounding in our webinar so far. At the same time, both groups experience challenges that limit the full potential of the family child care sector. Providers and parents need better access to the resources and benefits available through state programs, such as training, funding, wraparound services, and childcare assistance. Maximizing the opportunities that currently exist in the voluntary system would increase family childcare provider engagement and quality, all while supporting and strengthening parent choice. To sustain and strengthen this vital system, Louisiana must, first, establish family childcare provider networks and professional development opportunities. The state can do this by supporting the creation of regional family childcare specific networks, local peer learning cohorts, and mentorship opportunities that connect family childcare providers. For example, child care resource and referral agencies, known as CCRNRs, have structures already in place that could leverage greater family child care networking through their Early Learning Resource Center funding. And we see the Volunteers of America, South Central Louisiana, doing that already. In addition, models like Training Grounds Home Field Advantage demonstrate the power of culturally and linguistically responsive relationship-based training by trusted local organizations in building provider capacity and confidence. And as small businesses, family childcare providers could also really benefit from partnerships with local economic development organizations and chambers of commerce. Family childcare providers could be connected to resources that support things like bookkeeping, business planning, and marketing, as well as access to microloans, grants, and/or shared services that can help reduce costs. Second, the state could expand financial support, or should expand financial support for family child care providers and participating families. They can do this by increasing the state's investment in the Child Care Assistance Program, known as CCAP, and continuing to incentivize and support family child care providers to become certified with academic approval. This will increase the number of CCAP eligible providers, leading to greater access of affordable, high-quality childcare for families and the stabilization of family childcare programs. Increased investment in CCAP would also allow the state to expand its contracted seats model, known as CCAP B3, which ensures a set number of CCAP eligible seats for childcare providers. This model is particularly important for family childcare providers who often, as we've said, fill access gaps in childcare deserts where center-based options are either extremely limited or unavailable. Expanding the CCAP B3 program through increased state investment would incentivize or could incentivize more FCC providers to engage with the voluntary LDOE certification pathway, increasing affordable access to childcare in some of the state's highest need areas. And lastly, the LDOE, resource and referral agencies, and local community networks should actively engage and include family child care providers and parents in decision-making processes. They can do this by highlighting the importance and impact of family child care programs and creating structured opportunities for provider and parent representation in legislative, advisory, and community decision-making spaces. The National Association for Family Child Care recently launched its Louisiana Leaders Shaping Leaders program, which brings together family child care providers from across the state to cultivate leadership in early childhood policy. Similarly, organizations such as For Providers by Providers and Save the Children Action Network, as well as Child Care for Every Family Network, have built effective models for engaging parents and providers as advocates in decision-making spaces. Louisiana's early childhood leaders should partner with organizations like these to ensure FCC providers and families have meaningful opportunities to shape policy and practice.
Thank you, Maddie. We already know that Louisiana has one of the best early education systems in the country. It is something we should all continue to be, I know I am proud of. And continuing to strengthen that system will only be improved by deeper engagement with FCC providers to better understand how our systems can support the unique needs that families have and that family child care can help resolve. Strengthening these partnerships will be a key to identifying the policies, the resources, the infrastructure to truly integrate FCC providers into our system. Thank you for everyone who has joined us today, for the speakers and sharing your experiences and the key findings from the Family Child Care Study. We will now transition into Q&A, so I'm hoping you've dropped those questions into the chat. I want to welcome into the conversation Zakenya Perry-Neely, Director of Strategic Partnerships and Market Solutions at the National Association of Family Child Care, who is joining us for this Q&A portion of the press conference. So let's see what's here in the chat. All right, so we have an initial question. Have you considered having FCCs get an official license, not just an approval, creating a new level like a Type 3A, for example, that would allow them to access funds?
So, Deirdre, I can start with an answer to that. So that is something that's actually currently in state law. And so state law would have to change. And certainly at the department, if statute was adjusted to allow for licensure and to allow for family child care to care for additional children with licensure, then we would certainly implement that. So that's something that it would just really depend on advocates and what sort of appetite there is among legislators to make that kind of change. I can say, and I know that others, Erica and Zakenia, could probably note this as well, that we are one of the few states that does not offer licensure to family child care educators.
Erica and Zakenya, did you want to add anything before I move to the next question?
Yep, absolutely. And so NAFCC works with at least 46 states. And they are unified licensure systems where we are hoping that Louisiana can work with NAFCC to adopt a quality standards credentialing system that we hold. We hold the only national accreditation system for family child care educators. And this will certainly help to support infrastructure, business sustainability. We hope that this gets tied to incentives for family child care educators and subsidies. In other states, family child care educators, when they are credentialed with NAFCC's accreditation credential, receive upwards of 20% in subsidies. So we are hoping that, this is something that we could reach for in the future. We know that academic approval has been proven to have success with family child care providers, but we want to continue to move the needle forward as our national accreditation system with our quality standards helps support provider sustainability in their programs.
Thank you. And Karen actually did a nice advocacy handoff to you, Madeline. Do you want to add anything to what's already been shared on that question?
No, but yeah, I think there's a lot of work to still be done to figure out if licensing, what that would look like. And from our study, we don't talk a lot about creating a licensing pathway because it didn't come up in our conversation with the field. And so there is some more time to figure out, if not licensing, what support would meet family child care educators and providers where they are, while still ensuring quality and ensuring, families get the access to care that they need.
Okay, thank you. This question looks like it's for you, Madeline. The federal government is working to shutter the Department of Education and increasingly leaning on states to fund basic services such as ECE. As your findings illustrate, state government funding isn't keeping pace with the demand. Oh, why are we optimistic that family child care can help meet the demand? That's actually a great question. And even if barriers to CCAP are removed.
Yes, I can lead off with this, but certainly I can have others to answer to this. But first, a lot of our early child education funding, in fact, CCAP, which is funded by CCDBG, known as Child Care Development Block Grant, that is actually funded through the Department of Health and Human Services at the federal level, in the Agency for Children and Families. So while the shuttering of the U.S. Department of Education or any changes at the federal level right now, all of that seems to be up in the air. For the most part, the federal pipeline of funding is so far pretty consistent, and isn't under threat as of now. But still, as you mentioned in your comment, the funding does not meet the demand, and we do see that. The thing about family childcare that's really incredible is that there really are thousands of family childcare providers in the state who are filling in that gap of the demand. Our statewide data doesn't necessarily show that, but that is really what's happening at the community level, where when families are unable to access center or school-based programs, or if they want family childcare just for the nature of what it provides their families first as like a first choice, family childcare providers are really stepping in and meeting what the needs of families, and the needs of our economy. And so I think that's where this they're flying under the radar a lot, in conversations, because they're just not we don't yet have a way to really adequately show the work of family childcare providers at a state level with data, but we do know that they are meeting families, or they're meeting the demand, and that's why it's so important to ensure that they're getting the support they need. Would anyone else like to pick up on that?
I would just like to add to that when we talk about the work that we have to do in moving the needle forward. I mean, the study, I'm excited about the study because it is our North Star, and giving us a roadmap to support family childcare. But having the economic acknowledgement and recognition and respect for family childcare as a viable option and critical driver of Louisiana's economy and integrated into the broader ECE landscape. I think that that is something that we want to continue to focus on doing, because so like you said, Maddie, the data doesn't match, and we know that there are more family child care providers out there. And so when we respect family child care as a viable care option to support affordability of child care options in the rural communities for families, then that can help spark and strengthen family child care throughout our state, and really call on policymakers to really look at this as a viable option to attract funding streams for family child care, and to attract infrastructure and supports on how we build and strengthen them. So then that in turn strengthens our economy, right? Family child care educators have been known to be the silent backbone of the economic workforce. Even when COVID came into play and many centers closed, family child care educators intentionally kept their doors open.
Thank you for that, Kenya. I sort of want to pull the thread on that, as the data person here, and just that wonderful data point that came out of the study of nearly 5,000 family child care providers in Louisiana. That represents, or certainly has the potential to represent, thousands of children who are served. So when we talk about the opportunity, that data point is an important, with the range of like 2 to 6 children and nearly 5,000. That's a lot of children that we really have the opportunity to serve. We have another question in the chat about, and I'll let you all tell me who is best situated to answer this. All right, hold on. Are there resources on FCCers, and this is probably actually you, Karen, are there resources on FCCers and class scores in family child care providers? How can the broader ECE community support quality for FCC providers? So maybe the advocates and the department. No. Do you understand that first part of the question? Are there resources on FCCers and class scores?
So there is, Deirdre, there is data that the department makes available in our annual report on the performance profile, the annual performance profile scores of all provider types. So we show, we show childcare centers, we show school-based programs, we show Head Start, and we also show FCC scores. And they are right up there along with the other scores, and they are increasing from year to year. So I will look and see if I can find that possibly online while we're all talking the remainder of this webinar. But we do share that data annually, and we will have performance profiles for 2024, 2025 being released this month as well. And so they're also found on louisianaschools.com, our site finder. So yes, we're really pleased with how family childcare educators with academic approval have embraced this quality improvement system. And I think the reason that we see those class scores where they are really because of a lot of pilot activities that the department has done for several years now with family childcare educators, and that we have partnered with CCR&Rs and with Tulane's mental health consultation program to provide support to those family childcare educators. And just to kind of tie back to the last response and the last question, when we have given these family childcare educators an opportunity to be, part of networking and part of this conversation, we've learned so much about what supports they need, and we've been able to adapt and adjust, and they are just they're just extraordinary, and they're so ready to serve their communities in these very unique and valuable ways. And so we keep learning from them and keep trying to provide those supports and trying to engage more of them in this shared work.
Karen, we're building a world-class ECE system here. Did you all have representation? This is another question. Really, it's about the diversity of the participation. So if you could talk a little bit about the extent to which Vietnamese or Latin FCC providers were included in the focus groups, or families that were captured in the focus groups.
Yes, I can speak to that. And it's a great question. Our facilitation was largely in person for our focus groups and our interviews. However, virtual options were provided not only to meet the timing needs of family child care providers, but to also ensure that family child care providers felt welcomed and safe to enter into these conversations. And so we offered in-person and virtual options to meet the needs. And we did also have live interpretation available during those in-person or virtual convenings as needed. So we did end up being able to engage a good amount of family child care providers who are from the Spanish-speaking communities. I would say in further research, we want to also make sure that we capture the voices and experience of our Vietnamese family child care providers. And so we look forward to doing that in the future. But we did have live interpretation, translation as needed, and then we're able to meet in 2 different platforms to try to get as a diverse of a population as possible for our study.
All right. Another really, thank you for that, Maddie. Now, the questions are that you all have taken me up on the questions. Thank you for dropping them in the chat. So the next one was a curiosity about assessments, child development assessments. So if we can share a little bit about, are there assessments for child development health in terms of screening for mental health or trauma exposure, particular for family child care? All right,
So
let me
I think I could
re-articulate
start
that
by
question. Yep, go ahead.
I think I could start by noting that we do provide mental health consultation support to the family childcare educators who have opted into academic approval. And so through that support, they are receiving screening assistance for children who need it, and they are receiving that behavioral guidance support in their homes as they're working with those children. So we are trying to make sure that we're providing quality supports for all of the situations that the family child care educators are dealing with, from having the right learning materials in their home and setting up their home in a way that best supports learning to providing those intensive developmental health services.
Perfect. Thank you for that. And because the other part of the question was, do you see a need for this? And I see your hand up. Sierra, do you want to weigh in here?
Yes, I agree with Karen. By me being a family child care provider, I do have 3 children that have developmental delays. And yes, I did support the parents as well with their child having a screening completed, and it worked out in their favor. So with family child care, we walk with them throughout the whole process and making sure everything is helpful to the family and also the child.
Oh, thank you for that. There's another question again about serving diverse families. What are some of the solutions that are available to assist, particularly Spanish-speaking FCCs through the credentialing system? There's a question about, are there people who can come into FCCs to do inspections or observations or assist with paperwork in Spanish?
Well, I can say certainly nationally, any FCC sits at an expert position to support family child care educators who follow those quality standards that have been identified as part of our accreditation credentialing system. And so we too have observations as a part of that process for family child care educators to obtain their accreditation credential. I also want to just echo what Sierra mentioned in terms of those assessments, right? With proper training and resources, family child care educators, along with those credentials, those CDA credentials, NAFCC accreditations certainly can conduct those assessments. We just want to call for more professional development supports for family child care educators, but we do have a process in place for our quality standards and indicators, and what does it mean to provide quality care in those diverse settings. We offer our self-study guide in English and Spanish and have quite a diverse population of family child care educators that access those resources to become accredited.
And is it fair to say, Zakenya, that you all are employing those tools as you work in Louisiana as well? So families and the leaders are getting access to those materials in Louisiana as well?
Absolutely. Any FCC really prides itself on inclusion, and with our Leadership Leaders program, there's the Lucky 13 leaders in our first ever regional Leadership Leaders program. And we have 3 Spanish-speaking family child care educators in which we provide interpretation services during our sessions. And so we honor the diversity of family child care and respect what it brings to communities. So absolutely, there are supports that's put in place to honor inclusion.
All right, thank you for that. Sierra, is your hand up again, or is that the same hand up?
My hand is up again.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Yes, all of the information that Zakenya has shared is accurate. We do have interpretations throughout the whole entire process. I could witness what Zakenya stated because I'm a part of the Leadership Leaders of Louisiana First Cohort Fellowship here in our state to support family child care. And thank you to our manager, who is Michelle Davis, who's over the Leadership Leaders cohort. And we, when we have events, we also connect with other diverse groups to get them involved in Leadership Leaders here and we on the ground moving, connecting with other diverse groups.
All right, thank you for that. Karen, one quick question, just the work that happens and the supports through the R&Rs, is that, are the materials translated in Spanish? So resources that folks tap at the R&R level?
I think that really depends on that individual CCR&R.
Oh, CCR&R,
But
thank you.
it is a role that CCR&Rs could try to help play. And then so many of our community network lead agencies, that's kind of the beauty of the early childhood education system we have set up in Louisiana, that we have these coalitions and networks already set in every community. And so because of the partnerships with school systems, sometimes there are resources in those offices as well that might be able to help with translation type services.
All right, thank you for that. I'm going to try to get through these last few. There's a question about the size, about the 1 to 6. And so whether there's a desire to advocate for having laws change from that 1 to 6 ratio, that it keeps us in a small box. I think, is that sort of the national standard, that number? Does anyone want to speak to that? Is that 1 to 6 ratio standard? Is it larger anywhere, or?
There are certainly states which allow for family child care educators to serve additional numbers of children, but there are additional rules and regulations that are associated with that to ensure child safety. So, and again, in other states, most states do have licensure, so there would have to be licensure that accompanied that, and then oftentimes you would have to have an assistant if you served more children than that.
All right, Maddie, do you want to weigh in on this as well?
I was going to say the same thing, that like I think that's pretty standard, and then changes to that, which could be worked out in some sort of licensing system if our state ever chooses to approach that. It would mean like different standards too to care for more children. Yeah, I think.
So if I'm understanding this, the flexibility that we currently have inside of our system, that 1 to 6 keeps that flexibility there. And as we start to expand, we really do have to think about the rest of the regulatory environment.
Yeah.
All right.
Can I quickly weigh in on that? I apologize.
Yes.
I am in transportation, and so I just wanted to say, for what we see nationally and around NASCC's accreditation standards mirrors the ratios from Head Start, early Head Start, and it does vary by the age of the child, and so there isn't a quick answer on that. However, we have a new brief with 0 to 3, which we'll make sure is shared with everybody, that does talk about best practices for ratios within family child care, given the mixed age setting.
Oh, that'd be great to potentially have with where the report lives, that kind of information. All right, we have another question related to, can we elaborate on the state level of incentives that we would like to see made available to FCC providers? So we talked about that, and especially those, so can we elaborate on what we've said in terms of incentives, and especially those that would lead them down the pathway of certification and oversight? And did I understand it? 46, is it also correct that 46 other states recognize some sort of FCC educator certification? Is that accurate?
Louisiana is one of 3 states who do no sort of licensing for family child care providers. Licensing, obviously there's that optional pathway through the department, but Louisiana is one of 3 states in the United States that does not have a licensing pathway of any kind for family child care until they're caring for more than 6 children.
Okay. Can you talk a little bit more about, Maddie, you probably are the right person for this, what other types of incentives or specifics that we'd like to see made for FCC providers?
I think a lot of what came out of the conversation and what I've heard from, our partnership with NAFCC is that there are some family child care providers who know about the pathways with the department and still choose to not engage in that pathway. But there are a substantial amount of providers that are not engaged in the pathway because they don't know about it. And I would really say that's probably like one of the first steps, is re-looking at how we can communicate about what's available and what that actually means, and how it's really extra support and not extra some kind of negative push down of the government. It really is meant to support what we already hear from family and child care providers that they want more support in, and the department has an option for that. And so I see Karen coming off mute, and then also Sierra raised her hand. So I'll hand it over.
Yeah, so that's the handoff. Go ahead, Karen.
Yeah, so I agree with what Maddie said. We would really, we feel like it's very important at this time that family child care educators be able to opt into these opportunities and decide what works for them as they become more familiar with the opportunities and the resources. But as a department, we really want to concentrate on getting more of the word out.
Yes.
And making sure that family child care educators actually know their options and then can make an informed decision and choice, because that's really how we've been successful in the past and gotten the family child care educators with academic approval as part of the quality improvement system. They got to partner with, CCR&Rs and with each other and with community networks and receive coaching and training and share ideas and best practices and receive bonuses for their work and get learning materials, and so we want them to have all the same opportunities that centers have, and now there's a mechanism for that, but as Maddie said, many of them don't know about all those opportunities. And it's different having someone come into your home. So we want them to hear from other family child care educators who are benefiting from these supports about how these resources have actually helped them and served them and their families and children.
I know, Sierra, I just wanted to piggyback off of that, Karen, and just raise everybody up one in terms of just elevating what family child care, that it is an untapped potential, right? And so continuing to recruit family child care educators, family child care programs really into the fold. Just like Karen said, they don't know of the opportunities. We really recognized family child care as the viable option and really pull them into the fold as early care professionals that have quality care models? I mean, have we done that? And so I think that that's an opportunity to be able to do that with our family child care educators in Louisiana, with that data of having so many that's really not into the fold, that falls into any of those categories. There's so much work for us to be done in highlighting this care option as an untapped potential and recruiting more programs into the space. So
we're
sorry,
2 minutes from time.
Sorry.
Sierra, can you be real quick? Because I need to hand it back to Maddie to wrap us up.
Yes, I would like to share that I am a voice as the NAFCC Louisiana State Representative to support family child care across the state. Moving forward with this beautiful study that has been presented to everyone and all of the research and data that was collected. I can vouch to say for Louisiana Family Child Care, I have opted into the National Association of Family Child Care, every CC and ARA throughout the state, referral and resources. All of that information is accurate. I am here to help individuals that want to become a family child care provider. I can help you and I can support you throughout the entire process and becoming a registered licensed child care educator. And I'm here for you all. And that's what I wanted to say.
All right. And with that, that's right on cue. I think today is an important step forward. And just want to thank you all. Handing over to Maddie to wrap us up.
Thank you, Deirdre. And thank you again to everyone on the call for giving your lived experience and your professional experience as well. And I want to thank all of our attendees, our elected officials, and community members who are here today or who are watching in the future for your interest in this important discussion that we had today. If you have additional questions about the Family Child Care Report or would like more information about upcoming Policy Institute events, please email info@policyinstitutela.org. And to read the full report and learn more about early childhood education in Louisiana, visit our website, www.policyinstitutela.org. Thank you again to everyone for your curiosity, for sharing your lived experience, and being here with us today. And for those of you who participated in our webinar, again, I say thank you, and I hope you all take care.